Hi everyone, welcome to Everything Dog Training Podcast with me, John McGuigan, Glasgow dog trainer and behaviour consultant. Welcome or welcome back. It's been a while and I'm going to try and get another series of these done. Just been busy with lots of different things, projects on the go, so I'm going to try and get at least one a week of kind of longer form content for you. And today we're joined with my friend Tess Angren, or Erngren if you're not from Scandinavia. Angren is how you pronounce it in Swedish or Norwegian. And we're talking about an article which came out over the weekend about throwing a ball for your dog. So it's by Bart de Gauls, who is a dog trainer. Canine Evolutions is his website, and you can find him on Facebook as Canine Evolutions. I'll link all these. I'm going to copy the article and stick it in a link which you can look at. The full article will be there with Bart's information for you to look at his page. All that will be there. And I'm also going to put, it's not quite a rebuttal piece by a trainer in the States called Suzanne Clothier, who also talked about it. And there's a lot of nuance in both articles, so just have a look at if you've enjoyed this, or you're intrigued by the conversation or the subject matter, then please do go and read both articles. And the link is there. It's just a Google document which I've cut and pasted the articles into. But all their information's there that you can contact them directly if you need to. While I'm on, before we get into the crux of it, I'd like to invite you to join our monthly membership community, and you'll enjoy access to hundreds of training videos and a live class at the beginning of, it's the first Wednesday of every month at 7 PM London time, which is kind of London, Portugal time. And we discuss a variety of topics there, and you can come on there and ask questions as well. It's for everybody, we've got loads of people from first time dog owners right up to seasoned professionals on the course. There's also hundreds of training videos on how to deal with aggression and reactivity, loose lead walking, dealing with problem behaviours, how your dog learns, and a whole bunch of other things. It's £15 a month, and if you use the code podcast50, you'll get 50% off your first month. So you get your first month for £7.50 rather than £15. That works out at around about $10 US if you're listening in the US, or about $15 Australian for the first month, and then it's double that, so £15 a month beyond that. You can cancel at any time, you get full control over it. So join up, you like it for a month. If you don't like it, you can just cancel, and you've got access to all of my courses for that amount of money. It's really good value, and it's to get the best possible training information on positive reinforcement based training and how to live a harmonious life with your dog. Alright, and it's for everybody, so you can support this podcast and support our free social stuffs by subscribing to that membership as well. Okay, so the article that came out that Bart had published on the 28th, so I think that was Friday last week, was about repetitiously throwing a ball for your dog. Now, I've spoken about this previously. I don't think it's a good idea of playing fetch in a repetitious manner with your dog. And what I mean by that is, you throw the ball for the dog runs and chases it, brings it back, drops at your feet, we throw it again, and you keep doing that until we deem that our dog is tired. The conversation I'm having with Tess, which you'll hear, there's lots of nuance in it, so please do sit me a cup of coffee, and if you're a geek like me, a notepad, and take some notes, because there's lots of really interesting insights from Tess into it. And one of the things that we didn't kind of cover in the conversation was looking at the quality of the dog's movement. So I see it very often when we are doing throwing a ball for a young dog, or I'm asking the person to show me, the client to show me, how do you throw a ball for your dog? And we're looking for controlled movement of the dog. So if the ground is slippy, so even on wet grass, your dog can start to slip Okay, so that's one thing. So if the ground is not slippy and the dog starts to trip over and lose control of their body, so you'll see a dog that has previously been able to catch a ball on the move, okay, with relative ease. So the dog runs up behind the moving ball, catches the ball on the move, and then peels back round towards you, and all that's done under control. When you start seeing, and even before you start seeing real overt changes in the dog's ability to do that, so you'll maybe see more rushed behaviour, and your dog not grabbing the ball as quite as efficiently, and the dog tripping up over themselves and tumbling. And a lot of time, unfortunately, people think that these things are funny, and they're really not. It's your dog telling you, I'm getting tired, I haven't got the same control over my body as I had previously, and it's probably because we've done 20 or 30 or 40% more throws than we should have done. Okay, so it's just to think about that. I know if you've listened to my podcast before, you may have heard me talking about the parallels between the dog play and jiu-jitsu. So I run a jiu-jitsu school as well, a Brazilian jiu-jitsu school. And one of the things I'll see when people start getting tired, when our adult students start getting tired, I don't run kids classes, is that there's less control over their body. And when we're doing that, when we're practicing how to fight, injuries start happening. Okay, so more weight gets down on top of joints and ribs, and so on. People go over their ankles, go over their knees and stuff, and so on. So we're looking for nice controlled movement, okay, and the ability to think. So we get into that, all of that stuff with Tess. It's been a really interesting conversation. I texted her this morning, so it's the 31st of March as I'm recording this, and I texted her this morning and I asked her if she'd seen both of those articles, and she said let's just jump on a call and talk about it. So that's what we did, and hopefully enjoy. Awesome. Okay, so back with Tess. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm believe it or not, in Lillehammer, the Olympic town of Norway.
Nice. And because the last time we spoke, with the podcast that we recorded a few weeks ago, we've not published yet. I'll probably publish that in a week or so. So you were overwintering in Italy. You're back in Norway.
Yeah, back in Norway, and finally starting my research project on how dogs can help people with social anxiety.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Right, we'll see how this goes. He has been barking at me to get back in the room, and he's now barking at or sitting because he wants me to and to play with him. So we'll see how he goes.
Just natural behavior, as I was going to say. That it's no worries. I actually can't hear him barking. I think it's being filtered out.
Yeah. I think you'll hear him I don't think he'll bark well unless there's a motorbike goes by. I don't think he'll bark when he's in the room. Okay, so we chatted this morning on Messenger, and we're talking about the which I've done the preamble to this anyway, but we're talking about this. It's come up again about playing fetch with your dog. So we had a piece by Bart de Grohl, is it?
Yes.
Bart somebody, and from Canine Evolutions, and then Suzanne Clothier had, as well as a few others, had put an article up, not basically an opinion piece, not refuting it, but offering a different view of it. So I texted you this morning just to chat about it, and we thought we'd jump on and record. So let's. What's your thoughts on the whole thing or parts of it?
Well, yeah, it's so funny when you and I can pick up on the what sort of goes in fashion, because we on different ends of Europe we will pick up, we'll have the Facebook feeds, Instagram feeds just been filled with things that boom.
Yeah.
And this is sort of the latest boom, where it's so obvious that someone is writing something, and I love the first post, the first one I saw, because it was well formulated, it was well researched, all the references were there, and I was like, yeah, cool, this, I agree with this, because I really agreed with the first post on we have to be very careful with repetitious
Yeah.
throwing objects to our dogs. And then I was quite surprised because a few other trainers, actors, behaviorists picked it up and did not agree. And I was like, wow, okay, I did not know you had that opinion. And again, sort of well formulated responses. And yeah, that's where you and I need to talk about what do we, what are our responses to this,
So
and why.
I had yeah, it's the same as with a lot of stuff that comes around on social media. The people reading, so that both articles were fairly lengthy, and very nuanced. Now, if you're skimming, looking at if you're skimming through it looking for things that you don't agree with or things that you want to agree with, you'll not look at the entire article, which is a
The
problem.
cherry picking. It is the cherry pick, exactly. And that's why I was so surprised, because there were big names that I felt like, hey, you haven't really read the whole article here, have you? Yeah, you've done you took the title, you cherry picked a few points and this and that, and then you just posted your own view on it that you had for years, or defending your own behavior.
Now,
Which is
I
very
remember
strange.
several years ago, I'd put up just a little post, just a little kind of video blog talking about the same thing, not throwing your dog the ball repeatedly, but it's the repeatedly that's a problem. And I think that's what people have not picked up on.
Right. So I thought actually that you and I would, as I try always to do, that before we actually start discussing this topic, we need to define fetch. What do we define as fetch, so that we do know what we're talking about, and we can look at the upsides or downsides. But we need to define, because I think, as you say, exactly what you say, I think that is a problem now, that people do not actually have agreed on
Yeah.
what is the fetch behavior being discussed. It's just like, I do like this and I don't see the problem, or I don't do this because I only see the other end of the problem side. So yeah, so fetch for me, and the sort of the what would be problematic here is, of course, it's not sending a retriever out with complete stimulus control, fetching or retrieving a dummy or a bird,
So break
because that,
that down for us. So we're talking there about having your dog wait in place. So we've got a sit stay or a downstay. The dummy or the toy goes out into the field or the area in front of us, and we send a retriever to retrieve the dead dummy and bring it back.
yeah,
So that would be a retrieve that a gun dog trainer would train.
voila. And it's a series of very well separately trained behaviors. And yes, the dog will love to do this, but also under a very well controlled, low stress hold, genetically derived behavior. Super fun.
Well,
That is retrieving for me, and it will not be the fetch
yeah.
that you and I will be talking about today.
So just before, what would be the benefits of training that retrieve? Because with most gun dogs that I work with, that's what I start teaching people to do rather than playing fetch with their dog. So what's the benefits of training that, asking the dog to remain in place as we throw the dummy, and then the dog goes into the long grass to pick the dummy and retrieve it? What's the benefits of that?
Well, the benefits would be, if it's a dog that actually genetically programmed to do this, there will be a natural reinforcer, sort of that inner motivation, and doing it the right way with the low criteria, you will add on so many reinforcing behaviors in cooperation, stimulus control, waiting for the cue to fetch, retrieving to your human, cooperation for a social, these dogs are rather social, they want to cooperate with the people, and the ultimate reward, holding something in their mouth,
Yeah.
which will be the meaning of life for a retriever.
Yeah.
So there are so many natural reinforcers put into a controlled, well-planned series of training, and perhaps the ultimate stimuli for a retrieving dog.
Cool. Okay. Right. So that's the benefits of that. And then we've got I'm careful to generalize, the commonly held notion of playing fetch, which you would describe as what?
That would be taking an object and just throwing it repeatedly over and over and over and over and over again, and therefore creating a series of very unnatural behaviors.
Yeah.
And therefore no natural reinforcers, no natural needs are being fulfilled. Because if you look at what, you go back to the wolves, you know, my dear wolf from the very beginning, and if you look at the hunting behavior, there will be so many different sequences that is energy consuming. They have to find the prey, use their nose, use their head, use their cognitive skills to actually select the prey, and then they have one rush with full all the chemicals up and running to be able to kill.
Yeah.
And then this is what makes it very interesting to me, and what I see being the biggest problem. Because if you repeat only that last sequence without the previous sequences, you will get this stress on stress on stress on stress on stress. And I mean, it's not natural for any wolf or any dog to chase and kill prey repeatedly. Very, very difficult word. There need to be a lot of energy consuming behaviors first in the whole hunting sequences, and then you have that last, wow, okay, I need everything now to be able to kill this moose, you know, big prey, or whatever prey these hunting dogs have perhaps it have been bred to select for. And that to me is the problem with throwing objects to specifically dogs with high prey drive, of course.
Yeah.
Because it will trigger so many, I need to kill. And to be able to kill, you need a lot of oomph in the body.
So there's a few things there when you look at that predatory action sequence that you described of migrating and then using their nose, selecting which animal they want to herd off and communicate that to other members of the pack. And for those of you, depending, because a broad range of people will be listening to this, we know that dogs aren't wolves, but we've selected these characteristics in our domestic dogs and arrested them at certain stages. So the border collie is still murderous in its intent to the sheep. We've just arrested those so that it doesn't kill the sheep.
Yeah.
Right. Now, when we look at the dogs that we've bred to chase down and take hold of and kill the animal, we've really only got two types. We've got terriers and hounds, and that's pretty much it. So you've described with the hound, you know, which is the either with the scent hounds, the prolonged chase and search for the prey, and then the quick grab and kill. With sight hounds, we release them onto a flushed animal, and the animal it's a short, fast chase, and it's one only.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One only. Yeah.
Yeah. And then with the terriers, even if we go into, so there's the old kind of that famous bull terrier from the 1800s or whatever, you know, I can't remember his name, but apparently had killed like 1,000 rats in like 5 minutes or something like that. But it's the 5 minutes there that's important because they've lifted the barrels of the hay bales up. All the rats and mice have scarpered, and the terrier goes in and just goes bang, 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 until they're finished. But that doesn't last for hours. It lasts for minutes and in a very short, controlled environment, so that the space is quite small, you know. And when we are playing fetch with the dog by throwing the ball, dog brings it back, throwing the ball, brings it back, throwing the ball, it doesn't mimic either of those models.
None. Exactly. So you say you just pick you pick a sequence and you repeat it so unnaturally that there is no way that these dogs get the chance of equalizing that stress in the system, because they'll just trigger strike, trigger strike, trigger strike, and trigger strike, and trigger striking. And as you say, the terriers and also a border collies, or the high prey drive and high prey drive, as the border collies also have, is just incredibly controlled, will be the easiest to sort of just pick over the where they will so easily get hooked on this fix of that last killing or stalking behavior. And I mean, if I do, again, if you look at what could it be used for, I will toss a ball for Lilith, my Siberian Husky with extremely high prey drive, once.
Yeah.
When I see her, and only to teach my emergency recall.
Okay.
And because I see when she comes in and she knows this emergency recall and she's expecting that I will throw the ball, I can see her pupils just go boom.
Yeah.
They are
like Pikachu.
They are. It's just it's just like I was giving her it's incredible. Yeah. So it's one, and it's very controlled, and that's not what we're talking about. A controlled throwing behavior, or a dog that doesn't have a lot of prey behavior or hunting instinct, so they'll just sort of sorter off and get that's not what I'm calling a problem at all. But it will be a behavior if you throw an object or an animal is running, it just bang. I can see how my dogs very easily completely lose their self-control, if we call it that, and I have to be very careful. But I also want to use it to my advantage.
Yeah.
And now I have a fantastic emergency recall. Yeah. Fantastic, because I've reinforced it with the highest possible reinforcer, which is chase.
Yeah. So there's the key word that came out there was loose, and we've talked at length. So if you've not listened to us before, or you're not listening to this podcast before, you're unfamiliar with me. I can call him what he is now because he's not here anymore. So Logan was a big pit bull dog, and that's what he was, and I had him for 8 years. We lost him in October last year. And it was insane, his desire to chase and grab a hold of things. It was like off the scale. We did lots and lots of work on it. Now, when he chased, it was absolutely predatory. He would sprint after it and injure himself in the process, throw himself through bushes, straight through it. So single-mindedly chasing this ball. And so I really limited it, now with Sonny, who looks very similar to him, but is a completely different dog because he's a big Staffordshire cross. When he plays with, if I throw the ball for Sonny, and I don't want to say ambles after it, but it's more halfway between a canter and a sprint, So there's looseness in his body language. He will. I got this way with Logan towards the last few years, where he would do the snow fox jump.
Yeah.
Right? So that's nice. It's playful. It was much looser, and he would boom and jump like a fox into the snow. So Sonny, his movement when he's chasing the ball is more like that. The possession is a lot less at the end. So he will more freely give it up.
Yeah, that too, exactly. The object interest, the resource guarding.
Yeah.
There's so many things to think about here when you make an object behave like prey.
Yeah.
Because that's what we're doing. And that is, to me, the biggest problem here. If we do not know what we're doing, and seriously, the most dog people maybe do not think about what are all the risk factors I have to think about when I now do something completely unnatural, which is but making an object behave like a prey animal over and over and over and over again, where as you say, you and I we look at the behavior, we regulate the behavior, and I mean, it's taken us decades to learn how to do this, right?
Yeah.
Decades. So when I would go out and recommend all my regular clients to say, just do not throw things at your dog. It's just better safe than sorry.
Yeah.
Because there are so many more constructional things to do, more natural things to do. And instead of triggering that compulsive behavior that can so easily be triggered if you do not know exactly what you're doing. So it's not worth it. It's not worth it. And what I use as the biggest argument is that when we do toss objects, and we're still going through that, the line of chasing behaviors from stalking, attack, grab, and what comes next? Yeah, it's kill.
Yeah.
And chew it into pieces.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think any dog would ever chew a fluffy toy to pieces if it didn't squeak or move.
Yeah.
And stick, I mean, why would a dog ever pick up a stick in the woods? Why? Because someone has thrown it, so it behaves like an animal and is now conditioned to see a stick, and the forest is full of sticks everywhere.
Yeah.
So there are sticks everywhere, there's triggers everywhere, because the dog is not expecting them to move and behave like prey. And they catch them, they start chewing on them, and they end up at the veterinarian because they get all these splinters. Everywhere. So that's why I always say, if you make objects behave like prey animals, the risks are so big. Can we do better stuff with our balls? Just leave the sticks, for dog's sake, but leave the sticks alone. Can we do better stuff with our balls, with our toys, with our dummies, with our objects? And I really, really do think we can do a lot better, more natural, stimulating stuff by adding the search game, adding the cooperation, doing things together, adding the delivery, the retrieving, the self-control. Because I don't think the dogs I see that are completely fixated on that tennis ball in the pocket of a person you meet on the street, you see it immediately, right? It's very well-behaved German Shepherd or Jack Russell, and immediately I just go, tennis ball. That's a tennis ball in the pocket. And that dog is no longer enjoying the walk. They are not sniffing. They are no longer communicating, socializing with the world. They are just fixating on what a tennis ball in the pocket. And I seriously think there are way better things to do when walking the dog.
So what we're looking for I've made a few notes as you were, I'm listening to you. Right, I'm making notes in case it looks as if I'm not listening. It's the ability to task switch. So we play with the ball and now we don't do it. We're going to do something else. So when you've got that Shepherd, Collie, Springer Spaniel that you've mentioned there that's fixated on that ball, they have what we would like to, or we suggest that you do, is start saying to them, can you do other things here? So can you interact socially with another dog or with me if I take that ball away? That's not about the ball. It's just about us hanging out and saying hi to each other. Can you sniff interesting smells? Can you take food?
Yeah.
Can you settle?
Yeah.
Can you respond to cues if I ask once? So all of those things, when your dog's able to do all those things and play with your ball, or your toy, you're starting to get things right, eh?
Absolutely. And that's exactly it. If your dog can switch from chase kill or that chase till also using other cognitive skills, other nose skills, that I don't see it as a problem. That is how I train my dogs for my emergency recall. So I always have a one signal, one cue that I can use when I really need it. And but I also see how very quickly my high prey drive dogs associate that. Okay, tested 1 repetition of that training here in this place. So when we come back there, Lilith will just go, okay, it's this.
Yeah.
And it's just so, and then I have to sort of clean the palette and say, no, you still have your boyfriend here. We still have she will never choose to play even with her own boyfriend, her own with the boy, or do anything in an area where I have thrown this ball once.
And that's interesting. So what's happened, what Bart has put up in the original, I'm just going to read it out here. Okay, expectation is a form of pressure.
Right.
When fetch becomes a daily ritual, and it's not even just a daily ritual, it's any ritual. So when you've said there with Lilith, that when you take her, she comes back to a place where she has previously had that chase.
Yeah.
That's now a ritual, even if it's only after 1, because it's been so intense.
Yeah.
Your dog begins to expect it. This is no longer, and Bart said, fun in quotes. It's a conditioned need. And when it's not met, what happens next? And what happens next is the dog starts to feel, the dog pays the price for that.
Yeah, and that's exactly, if I didn't know what to do there, sort of avoid that area for where because I will pick very deliberately one fenced area to constantly sort of repeat this behavior because it's so important. And then I just can't go there anymore because this is her MO, her expectations will be so high on just getting that tennis ball, getting that chase, that she will lose anything else. We could, all the other stuff, fantastic, we could do so many more things. So I choose one place to do that 1 repetition. And again, if this is not a dog with super prey drive like mine, it will of course be able to do a few more repetitions, but I can't, and of course that's why I'm so sensitive to this topic, because I can see how quickly he would go into just not having a good time, because she will just be frustrated. It's like, where's the ball, and that she will get stuck there.
Pause you there, Tess. I'm going to have to put him in the hall, so give me 1 second.
Yes, of course.
Because you've linked that area. So I've got a client I'm working with just now, and I've seen it a lot throughout the years. She's done brilliantly with this dog. He's a little scruffy Staffordshire cross. He's a great little dog. And when he goes to open green areas, this happened with Logan as well, he then gets let off the lead and he gets thrown the ball. So when he's now in open green areas, and he then expects that, which means that even if he's on the lead, the open green area takes precedent over the signal for the lead, and the dog starts saying, where's the ball? And if you let him off the lead, his inability to do anything else then gets in the way of, 1, him having a good life, a more fulfilled life, and 2, your ability to prepare him for that fuller life.
Yeah, and that's exactly, and that is what I see as the problem here. When you do not manage, you don't have maybe the skills to regulate the expectations, so you are ruining either full walks or generalized areas. And then again, the second part of, okay, chasing that will also make you the risk higher to kill the object and maybe swallow dangerous stuff or get things stuff in your mouth and you, because it's now prey behavior. It's taking all the way to the killing, eating end. So that's, it's taking away so much. It's making it really easy for the human, right? I now have a dog that I can control with the remote control. It's only fixated on me. And that's why it's so easy to end up there, I think, right? It is. I mean, it's so, I see when I look at Lily, it's like, wow, if I just had this ball in my pocket at all time, she would behave like a competing dog. But I don't want that. I want her to have so many more different enrichments in life. Because it's just never I want that, but I want to use it very carefully, and because it will add to her life.
Yeah,
it will. I do it very carefully.
I remember so my son's 20,
Something.
hang on, 23 this year, right?
Ooh.
23 this year. And when he was younger, you know, and I mean a child under 10, and I would say to him, "What do you want for dinner?" And every night, if I asked him, he would say pizza. Right,
Yes, of course. I
right,
do too.
right. And I used to say to him, "There's more to life than pizza." Right.
No, I'm not sure.
I would tend to agree with that as well. I don't know if there's more to life than pizza. Right. So I would say there's a bigger palate than pizza. You have a greater palate than pizza, right? Now, so with these dogs, that's the ball. You're saying to them, there's more to life than pizza. You know, there's a bigger life.
Yeah.
Can you just sit and chill out and can you relax? Can you attend to me? Can we go for a walk through a nice environment? I don't know if you've ever seen it's a really the kelpie sighing at the sunset. Have you ever seen that video?
No, no.
Oh,
Sounds
it is. It is. It would make you believe that there was a God, right? You know, or a greater power, which there is a greater power in the universe. The dog is sitting watching. It's an outback in Australia, and the sun's going down, and the guy's taking a video of his dog watching the sunset, and the dog takes a big,
right. Yes.
and you know, and you're like that. If it's the dog's ability to appreciate that moment, and we can have hopefully this is what we aim for is have a dog that is able to have experience those moments daily.
Yeah.
You know, the awesomeness of the world. You know, there's a smell come into your nose there from 200 yards away down or 200 meters upwind, and the dog. Oh, that was nice. You
Yeah.
know, just the same as we see a nice Ferrari or a sunset or,
Uh,
nice
It's
set.
true.
You
Yeah.
know,
No, yeah, absolutely true. Because that's what I want for my dog. I want them to be able to appreciate all the diversity
yeah.
in our very diverse life as well. You know, we travel, not really being able to sit in one place for more than but I want them, we're still calm and
Yeah.
we're still appreciating every moment, the little moments, the little things, the variety of things,
Yeah.
instead of just having one fix only.
Yeah.
And I forgot to say, because as you talked about Logan, that he would go so high in his prey behavior or chasing behavior that he could hurt himself, right?
Yeah.
He would go through anything.
Yeah.
And that's what another major issue. Now we talked a lot about the stress and sort of what happens in the head, but these dogs that have you seen this when they're chucking ball
Yeah,
sticks?
the ball chucker. Yeah.
The ball chucking. I mean, I see these dogs and they are so high. Yes, they are having fun, but it's just too high because they run too fast, they turn too quickly.
Yeah.
The risk of hurting themselves is massive, like in any other unnatural sport. Of course, when we see the agility dogs being
Yeah.
retired when they're 5 years old, the sled dogs being retired, general 5 years dogs, because we're putting them in very unnatural, very, very tough repetition behaviors that are just not good for them.
So there's a number of things there to look at a little bit. When you mentioned about when Logan injuring himself, the other thing that would happen with him was, I remember saying when I did initial work with him, one of the many reasons I stopped posting videos of him on Facebook because I couldn't be bothered trying to explain everything all the time to everybody that objected what I was doing, right? And I was like, so people would say, well, why can't you just let him have the ball? And I would say, because if I let him have the ball, he's going to sit with it in his mouth, staring at me for the next 4 hours. And that's not a lie. That's what he would do. Now, he's then sitting bathing in cortisol because he's got this thing in his mouth, which he now thinks that I'm going to take from him.
Yeah,
So I had to
exactly.
do a lot of work, and it was 6 months before he voluntarily gave me the toy, right? Without me tricking him with another toy, right?
Yeah.
So there was that. Then if he got himself wound up, so when you were saying earlier on about like somebody throwing a stick for him, or with if it was a traffic cone. So that's what somebody had used with him before, more than likely from his behaviour. So if he got himself wound up over something else which he found stressful in the environment and went on to that, if he got himself so wound up into a frenzy, it could take him 2 or 3 days to come back to some sort of stasis. And that's not good.
Nope.
You know.
Exactly. So that I think that will be what you and I are talking about. Since we've lived with these dogs that so easily, when understimulated and overstimulated, go into behaviors that are not good for anyone. As the over the resource guarding, the again, it's all still in the prey drive chain. Exactly. When you have the prey, you have to guard it.
Keep a hold of it. Yeah.
So, but it's too much of it, because either we have bred dogs to have too much of these selective behaviors, and they are so much more easily triggered to sort of get stuck in that small window of a chasing, killing, biting, guarding behavior. Or they're understimulated. Or in this, if you look at the biggest discussions going around now that I see in regards to these articles, is that when they are so overstimulated, they will redirect their chase kill behavior to anything else that moves around them. I mean, okay, there's kids that are playing football further down in the field. What will happen when you're trying to take away the ball that you've tossed to your now fixated dog? Well, they'll probably try to take that one. Or the worst case scenario, and I know I sound dramatic now, but I mean, that's my role as a professional behaviorist, is to always think beforehand, what is the possible risk analysis of this behavior? It's that this dog will start chasing whatever else moves. Small dogs, cats, little people. And that's, I mean, that is when we object to, okay, hang on a minute, is this a behavior that is naturally in the dog's behavioral sort of palette? No, it's not. There is nowhere you see dogs throwing stuff
I know for each other
and hey, look at this, chase, you know, that's, to me, will always be, hey, is this a natural behavior that I need to fulfill? No. So let's not do it. And that's why I don't put backpacks on my dogs. No animal on earth has a natural need for carrying anything on their backs. It's just human that thinks, oh, cool, help me when I'm out hiking. I know I carry my own food because I know they will
and
not.
your dog's food.
And my dog's food too. You know, they will have a way better hike, having full ability to move around in the mountains, right? Or on skis. And it goes within my philosophy all the way that, is this a natural behavior? No, it's not natural to heel and look at its owner for out, no, it's not. So let's not do it. It's not natural to pull, to run over, an iditra. It's not natural for a sled dog to run for weeks. It really isn't. So, hey, back to sort of look at, again, I think it's a very egoistic behavior, because when we pull up a ball and we see our dog almost losing shit because it gets so happy, of course you think that, oh, my dog loves this. And yes, he does, but maybe a little bit too much.
There's a number of things there. The example I always use, well, I'm going to come back to a few parts that you said, but especially with border collies, the border collie wants the ball to remain stationary.
Right.
Because it represents a sheep. It's like that. Don't move. I'll stare at you and don't move. Right.
Control. Control being the reinforcing behavior. Losing the sheep or the ball will be the stressing behavior.
So years ago, I worked in a summer camp, and I've used this. If you've been listening to this podcast, you've heard it. Probably heard me saying this previously. So I worked in a camp with adults with learning disabilities in the States in the 90s, and it was a blast. It was just a blast. It was so much fun. And we had twins who were these two huge men enormous men, like the size of like NFL linebackers. They were enormous, like 6'6" and you know like 150 kilos, right? They were huge men, right? And the younger one, Terry, he was obsessive over doors being closed, kept closed. He had some OCD type behavior, so he wanted everything to be neat and orderly, and would bring the campers down. So I worked in a cabin with our campers were in wheelchairs, so we would have to peg the doors open, to latch them open, to bring the guys down the ramp. And if we forgot to go back up and close the doors, Terry would sprint across the camp, which was 100 meters, right, and slam the door shut, right. Now, if you were of a mischievous and malicious mindset, every time he sat back again, you could have opened doors again, and he would get back in. He'd have done it all night long, right? Now, people would look at that. I often say to people, would you ever think that Terry is enjoying that process? He's enjoying the doors being closed, and it causes him stress when the doors are open. So if we pick up a ball for a border collie and launch it with a ball, the chucker 60 meters, the dog sprints off and gets it. The dog enjoys the ball being here, not there, but has to go and get it because we keep throwing it for him.
Yeah.
You know, and that's quite different from a retriever retrieving, as we talked about earlier. Quite different.
Absolutely, very different. Exactly, because that is cooperation, the stimulus control, waiting for cue, and deliver. Would they have we've bred them to not kill prey because they have soft mouths, right? I'm not sure what you say in English, but and then you look at the terriers. Yeah, the terriers again. And you give them a squeaky toy. Would be the same thing, right?
Yeah.
The bloody rat never fucking dies. Just squeaky, squeaky, squeaky. And that's why all these toys with squeaky nippies get killed.
Yeah.
Because you have to go inside and kill that bloody squeaker. and again, we will have the ultimate fulfillment for a terrier will be searching for hours, finding where the rat lives, using his head to dig it out, and then is one rush kill, squeak.
Yeah.
And just
that's it done. Yeah.
That's life. That's life. But the squeaky, 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 squeaky. I can think of a lot of triggers making me as irritated and stressed as a rat never dying if you are bred to kill rats.
Yeah. It's interesting when you're saying this because I'm reminded of when I was in my police career. So I worked 9 years uniform in a really busy office. And this time of year, because the football season the weather started getting nice and the football season's coming to a close. So in Glasgow, we've got the two rival teams. And especially if they were playing each other in the final, at the time, this was in the kind of late 90s and early noughties, it's not quite as bad now. I dare say some cops would say that it still is bad, but I don't think it's quite as bad as it used to be. Those nights you would go to a call, so that's the chase and that's the migration. Sometimes you would actually have to physically chase people, right? So you'd have to get the car and run after them. You'd have to arrest them, which is the grab bite, okay? And then you would have to detain them and take them back to the office. Now, when it was busy, you didn't have to. Usually, on a quiet evening or quieter evening, even if you were doing that, the decompression afterwards was your paperwork. So you would do the paperwork, you would process them, you would go in and relax, you'd have a cup of tea, then you would go in and interview them if you needed to. On those nights where it was busy, it was bang, 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 again and again and again and again and again. And it was just the same cycle you were getting going over and over and over and over and over again. And you'd come in. This is why cops that work in the street are generally in their 20s and 30s, you know. So
that was you get burned out, right?
Yeah. Oh God, yeah.
You get burned out. You're out of the force, I suppose.
Yeah. And then in the last 6 years, I worked in the surveillance units. We worked kind of major crime and counter-terrorism and stuff. And we would work we could work 6 months working on a guy, just following him. So you're still hunting, right? But you would get, in the 6 years that I did that, I only actually went hands-on with somebody, like physically touched them to arrest them twice, I think, in 6 years. And we did jobs with, cash and transit robberies. People were robbing armored cars and stuff like this, and the firearms team would go in and arrest them, and we'd follow them, and then they would call them in. And you get the adrenaline rush, and you're sitting there because you're like, oh, and you're ready to go, and you got to box them in, and the firearms guys come out and do their bit and all the rest of it. And see, afterwards, you were like, job done, right?
Job done.
And
Yeah.
then decompress.
Decompress and then resource guarding them in prison.
Of course, yeah, that's not my job, the way. That's someone else's job. Yeah, but it's very, 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 it's a real similar process to that, because instead of hunting prey, we're hunting humans, which it is, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
But that ability to have the high of going hands-on, and sometimes if it would be violent, you would have to be, it would be more of a struggle, or it would be more physical. And afterwards, and then being able to relax your head,
and reset, right? And
Yeah,
and now
yeah.
you remind me now, because what I forgot to mention is that what is that completely resets the wolf and the dogs that are supposed to chase and kill. It's eating. It is
Yeah.
eating that, when, okay, I finally got my prey, I will survive, and starting to eat will get all these stress chemicals to alter into feeding behavior, reset
And they
behavior.
don't eat straight away as well, because they have to come down from that. Their adrenaline and cortisol has to balance off before they can actually start digesting it properly.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why if we're going to round this up with, so how to do a good fetch, if we're doing fetch, which we're not saying never do fetch, but you already mentioned it, that when we can alter a play chase behavior with eating, that's when we help the dog to reset. So when I would do that one emergency recall, reinforce Lilith with chase ball, and I get it back with a lot of training of release or thank you. And then I have to get her down to a search game and an eating game to sort of cleanse her head from chase kill to, oh, I do have the prey. My brain is now switching to feeding behavior, which are relaxed behaviors, right? So, and that, I mean, I think we should do that always. Play behavior will get the dog up in this sort of an action, and feeding behaviors, search and feeding games will get them down. And that is what a good trainer is supposed to teach, I think. Is having that balance, so your dog can always alter between yay fun to focus, yay fun, focus, because that's a balanced dog. Now, terrified of using the word balance, but that is
actually balanced, a balanced human being.
I mean, everything balanced is good, except for perhaps the balanced trainers discussion. If instead of mentioning a group, it's a discussion. But that is what I want to see in everyone around me. Preferably, I like balanced people. And I definitely work so hard all the time to balance my dog that way, which is giving them the natural needs fulfilled, but what they need, because there will be different breeds to breeds, right? My dogs need a lot of physical activity, but not pushing that button that is it. I mean, it is chasing, it's prey drive that makes them run when we're skiing and we're biking and we're running. It's chase behavior, it's prey drive behavior. Well, otherwise they wouldn't run. But I do not use that natural reinforcing behavior of chase in a way that gets repeated in an unnatural way by using an object, tossing it over and over and again, because the prey drive will go so high, she will not be able to control her own behavior.
Can't think, can't breathe, can't eat. Can't digest,
And sensation.
To finish, just to finish up, I think with a lot of things that happens, the stress has to go. It has to go somewhere. So it either gets internalized or externalized. So external behaviours are what you've described when the dog starts wanting to chase other things, starts becoming less sociable with other dogs, not even redirects, but goofs off around us. So jumps up and grabs the lead, won't,
Yeah.
buzzes away from you when you're trying to get them back on the lead, plays tug with the lead, grabs your arms.
Yeah.
And then the internal behaviours, or a more internalized response would be a dog that can't settle in the house. They become ill, their stools are loose. And a lot of the time what happens is that I think our dogs die young. And I think they die young because in response to the stresses that we put them under.
Absolutely. Bad genetics and bad environment.
Yeah. Awesome. Anything you want to say before we finish up?
Well, I don't want to end on that really bad note, like you said, it was horrible. But, I easily understand how it's easy to misunderstand. Why are we not supposed to do this? They love it. It's like, it's just, look at, is it a natural behavior? No. Can we do better, more enriching interactions with our dogs instead? Yes, we've given a lot of examples. And the last point I want to use, read the whole article of everything you see. Or at least a post, and then you share or you make your comment, because there is do not only read the title or maybe the first ingress and then react, because coming up from what we started with, the first post was very well written and nuanced, and
so was the second one. The second one was as well, you know. Yeah,
it was. So and if you have been throwing balls or sticks to your dog in all well thoughts, don't blame yourself. You didn't know better, but now you do, and perhaps you'll find the level that your dog can handle fetch or chase on a good balanced level.
Yeah, perfect test. Awesome. And I know this was because I know that your schedule's busy, so I appreciate you jumping on this afternoon to talk about this. All right.
Well, thank you. It was so fun.
Yeah, we'll talk to you soon, okay?
Thank you.
So thanks for listening to that. There's easy ways that you can get a hold of me. Any thoughts of this? I'm always interested in people's feedback, both on the podcast in general and on this episode. You can text me info@glasgowdogtrainer.co.uk, or you can reach me on Instagram, Facebook or YouTube @Glasgow Dog Trainer. Much love to you, and I'll catch you on the next episode.